multi-marathon runner who has participated in almost 200 marathons since 2006, is a living inspirational story. Nutritionist Crystal Hadnott is here not only to share her story, but to help you understand the importance of gut health and why we should become the advocates for ourselves. Oh my goodness. I am so excited to have you here, Krista.
Thank you for having me, chick.
Yes. And look, you came with your note cards and everything. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
This is age. This is age.
Which is completely fine. Which is completely fine. But being able to come on and talk about the importance of gut health and knowing how we actually have the power within us in order to heal us, I think is so important for so many people to hear. So just go in, share a little bit of your story before we even get into it.
Well, I always preface by saying, in a world that actually profits off of chronic illness, it's almost like a rebellious act to actually decide to take charge of your health. And that's pretty much what I've done. I call myself kind of like this warrior starting this health revolution, and it's kind of like three phases for me. Health and wellness. I didn't find health and wellness. I always tell people health and wellness found me. And so what I do is literally a part of my life's work. And I literally became the teacher that I knew my clients or people needed, because I end up experiencing health issues that in turn changed the way I thought, changed my perspective, etc. So first what happened is when I was in college, I experienced colon failure. My colon stopped working. And in that moment, with the doctor saying, okay, this is it. Like, let's just hope you don't die of toxicity because we don't have anything to fix this. And for me, that wasn't an option, one. It was not an option for me to just accept what is. Like any other 20-year-old, you think you know it all, and so I'm gonna figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. I took classes, I read books, looked at lectures, and just really started to dive into learning about the gut, because now I'm curious. So when that happened, it really just piqued my interest on what is the gut, what does it do, how does it function, how do you treat it? Because the doctors couldn't answer the one question I had. It wasn't how you necessarily fix it. I was wondering, how did I even get here?
And that was my question. Is there a particular cause
what started me to get to where so that was, with that question in mind, is when I started doing my research, my own personal research, because it wasn't that, okay, I'm here, so I don't need to harper on the fact that I'm here. I need to figure out, how did I get here so I don't go back? Because that's always what they say, if you know your history, you won't repeat it. So I didn't want to be in this state again years down the road. So I did all the research and just really saw how the gut literally is the foundation to your health. And your gut is really just a manifestation of all the other things that's going on in your body. Your gut literally controls your brain. It controls the functions of your organs. It literally is the epic center of, like, Grand Central Station of your entire system. And so understanding that and just looking at all the root causes to the issue that I was having, I end up going to see naturopathic doctors, learning that there was such thing as a naturopathic doctor, and really diving into this world of what's called functional medicine, which was really big in the Eastern world, not necessarily Western medicine, and just learning other different wellness modalities in that process. And then I tell people that's when my interest was piqued when it came to nutrition. But when I had my accident where I had paralysis from hip to foot, and same thing, doctors went through physical therapy. It's like, okay, this is it. I was like, been on this road before with doctors, they were like, well, just learn how to operate with a cane. I was like, one, I'm single in my 20s. A cane is not sexy with my stilettos, like in a bar. So I was like, I cannot have a third foot. Like, I'm not about to do that. I'm not about that life. So I mean, you know, just out of the aesthetics, I was like, I've been down this road before. So once again, put in pen to paper. And then I wondered, you know, okay, this whole thing about nutrition that I had been learning years before, what is the connection between movement and the body's be able to function through movement to nutrition? And so that's when kind of my perspective to nutrition started to change. Fast forward years later, I tell you, that's when I kind of developed my personal methodology of how I approach nutrition, and that's when I got a diagnosis with autoimmune disease. And,
Wait.
Yeah.
So you went through colon failure, paralysis,
learn how to walk again, not being able to walk. Now now I'm in front of a doctor. First of all, with anybody with autoimmune disease, it's very common that it takes up to 10 doctors and 5 years for you to get your diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
So it's the most frustrating process ever. With me, a person with extreme body awareness, I kept telling doctor after doctor, something's wrong with me. They was like, oh, you're so healthy. You're a nutritionist. You eat good. You're a marathon runner. You run all the time. You're really active. All your numbers look great. I was like, something's wrong with my body. I can feel it. And, you know, just after going doctor after doctor, luckily, you know, it didn't take the average 5 years like most people. It took about a year and a half, though, with me. Finally, someone listened to me. And it really only was because at this time now, my personal care doctor was also a friend.
Okay.
And so she, you know, outside of the normal doctor visit, she was just like, hey girl, you know, when's your next race? You know, just girl talk outside of just, you know, the regular, like, let me check your temperature. She was like, when's the next race? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know, I haven't really been, you know, really getting good quality sleep because I'm having these night sweats. But I guess, you know, because I'm now listening to what the doctors are telling me. You know, I guess it's just age and, you know, menopause. I don't know, like something. I was like, you know, and so I said I'm having these horrible night sweats, and so I'm not really getting good sleep. And then I was like, you know, because I'm not getting good sleep, I guess, you know, I'm feeling these like almost like panic attacks through the day, and because I guess my body is not rested, but I'm still trying to train, and I was like, you know, and the other day I kind of like, I felt like I passed out or like blacked out when I was in the studio working, and she was like, wait a minute, hold that thought. Then she looked at my weight, and she was like, okay, when did these symptoms start? I was like, it's been almost 2 years now. So she looked at my weight that day and 2 years prior, and she asked me, she was like, you know, have you noticed that have your eating pattern changed? Like, are you eating more or less? I said, well, I'm always hungry, and I guess because I'm running all these miles, I eat a whole lot. You know, I eat all the time. And she was like, okay, so you're eating more, you're not running as much because you're not getting enough sleep, but you are 3 pounds difference from 2 years ago. You shouldn't be losing weight. And she said, I know it's not a significant weight loss, but there's no way you're running less, eating more, and lost 3 pounds, especially at your age. Like, she's like, something else is wrong. She said, let me do a little bit more some more blood work. And that's the only reason why.
And she was the first doctor.
The first doctor to stop.
That you said,
she said, I know you've kind of made sense of all these different symptoms, but there's no way, like, all these different symptoms collectively does not make sense. I think something else is wrong, and I think I know what it is. So let's do another test. And that's when the results came back that I definitely was what they call hyperthyroidism, which is uncommon one in African American females, black women in general. Most black women have hypothyroidism. So that's one reason why most people weren't looking at me. And when they looked at me as a black female, a lot of them was like, oh, maybe it's lupus. So they was checking me for lupus and MS and the things that related to black people. And nobody thought to look at it from a Graves' disease person. She was like, you really need to see an endocrinologist. And I was like, what the hell is that? You know, I had went to all these other doctors separately for things, because I went to my doctor because I thought I was having an asthma attack or a panic attack. So I went to go see my doctor to look at my lungs. My lungs were fine. So, you know, I was like, it's all these different doctors. So now she was like, let's go see an endocrinologist, which is a specialist. who can help you with autoimmune issues. And so it's like, okay, fine. So I got that diagnosis.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Was she the first female doctor you had?
No.
Out of that time? Okay, so it was multiple female doctors.
It was multiple female doctors. And it's just, I think that they have this checklist. You know, when you're a certain age, and you meet the checkbox of all the other things, that's it. So even with my clients, when I see them now, you know, I'm very, you know, I help them become their own advocate, basically. Like, you don't want just a lipid panel when you go get your blood work. I always tell them you want a full comprehensive panel, because there's things that they might not check, you know, on a regular lab work. So you want a detailed blood work when you go in. So just really understanding those things, because it's, you know, if you're not a certain age, they're not going to check you for X, Y, Z. Like, you don't get checked for breast cancer until you turn 40.
Right.
You know, and so if you're 28 and you just have, if you're not doing your own exams, you don't know, you know, so they don't check you for colon cancer until after 50, you know, so there's these things that they don't check for because you don't meet the stats.
Right.
And so, you know, really just learning to be your own advocate. But with all of this, that then kind of like developed what I call my methodology of how I work with my clients. You know, so when I'm working with my clients, one, you know, I tell people we're multi-dimensional human beings. And so nutrition cannot be approached from a singular or a linear perspective. We have to look at the whole person. And not just look at the whole person, but, you know, what are any imbalances that exist? What are the root causes of those imbalances? And lastly, just like, okay, you know, do you have any inflammation that's going on? Do you have any parasites? Just the things that your general care doctor probably might not look for.
And you know, I think that that's so interesting, because like you said, you knew something was wrong with you. You knew something was not right.
And that's only because over time I developed a level of awareness for my body. Because when I found out, and when my colon fell when I was in college, what happened is, and it wasn't really until I got my autoimmune diagnosis and saw another doctor that they were like, oh, that colon failure was because you had parasites.
Wow.
You know, and those parasites were still there 15 years later when I got my autoimmune diagnosis. And so just that, and those parasites and the inflammation, and then the stress that I was putting on body from running marathons to starting a business to burying my mom to bearing a child, like all those different stressors just astrabated the inflammation in my body, sending my immune system in haywire, causing an autoimmune effect. And so, but it all started with the fact that I had parasites.
Wow.
And I wasn't told that when I initially went to the doctor, when they was like, oh, this is what's wrong. Your colon is just not functioning. You know, but they didn't check for parasites, because that's not something that they naturally do.
You know, I think that this is such great information, because you became your own advocate, your own wellness advocate, understanding every single piece of your body. And now you're teaching this to your clients.
Yes.
But it started with you.
Yeah, it started with me. Like I said, I became the teacher that I needed. So I just try to go back and remember, like, in those moments, what did I need? And what did I wish I have? And so now I try to be that for my client. Like, what are the questions I should have asked that I didn't even know to ask, because I didn't know this information exists or these things exist. So now, you know, I have this Q&A kind of chart, like frequent asked questions you should ask your doctor when I'm working with my clients. Also, just really helping them understand how your body should feel. You know, like I tell people, we operate so much in a horrible state that you really may not know how it feels to feel good, because you've been, your body's been under stress for so long that you've normalized it. And it's now like what you consider a good day really is not a good day. It's just better than the rest of the day. And so really teaching them how your body should feel, and also just understanding lab work, basic lab work, because everybody knows when you go for your annual, they give you that lab work results with a bunch of numbers on there, with a bunch of really foreign words on there. It's a whole list, it's multiple pages, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
Now what? You know,
and they just,
thank you.
You're fine. Oh,
you're
okay.
fine. But you don't even know if you're fine because those numbers. And a lot of times what they're looking at is making sure you're in that normal range. And this is another thing I tell my clients, because I really like for people to, I don't want to be normal. I want you to be optimum. Because if you're normal, it could be the slightest little thing that throw you out of normal.
Oh, that's good.
But if your body is in the optimum level, you have a little more wiggle room, you know, when things happen like COVID-19 or, you know, a stressor of grief or dealing with a loved one, because your body responds to those stressors the same way. Like there is not a different way that your body responds to virus, bacteria, the exact same way it responds to an injury or even mental health or grief. Your body's actual physical responses are the same. So you need to know that if you're not operating in that normal state, you could slip out of normal really fast.
Yeah.
And so, or you may have a couple of days where you may not have access to the most nutrient dense food. And you have those couple of days where you just, and I hear it all the time, like people go on vacation and you have like 4 days where you may not get all the nutrients that you normally get, and you come back and you feel like crap and sluggish, and you're in the deficiency now. So that's because you were in normal probably when you left, and now those few days knock you into a deficiency. And so you're not operating good. So really also teaching them, you know, there's deficiencies on that lab work. There's a normal level on that lab work, but there's also a range that they don't talk about, and that's the optimized level. You want to be in that optimal level. You don't want to be normal.
So what are some tips for us to get to that optimal level?
One, work with a professional that's going to tell you the truth.
Yes. Work with you.
Yeah, I mean, just somebody that's going to help you, because I tell the information that I've had, like I said, mine has been the 3-phase process from when my interest was peaked into nutrition to refined it to what it is today. So even with me, it's been a learning journey. So it's impossible for an individual to just all of a sudden, and this is not even your job, you know, to figure out like what to do in 48 hours compared to all the work that I've done in 20 years. So I tell you, work with that individual and create your team. People have businesses all the time or have jobs where you have a team working on a project. Your body is your project. Why not create your team for your body?
You better come on and say
right? Like you do that for every other aspect of your life. You need your doctor. You need a nutritionist. You may need a life coach. There's a team of people that got to hold you together. To make sure that you're operating at an optimum level of wellness and performing at peak level. So if you don't have that team, you know, you need to start creating that team of folks, and understanding that you are the only you that you have that's gonna make sure that you live your life.
Come on. So don't expect nobody else to try to live it for you.
Nobody else is not going to do it for you. So you need to build that team that's going to support you in having a well life.
I love that.
So it's not about just hiring me. I tell you, it's not just me. You know, I do my part. Your doctor do their part. You may have a life coach to do your part. You may have a business coaching person that do their part. You may have a mentor that's doing this other part, but you definitely need to have a roster that's creating the person that you desire to be.
I love that. I love that. Build your team for you.
For you. We do it for everybody else.
Everything else.
And everything else. And everybody else. Even with our kids, like you got a team. You got your mama, you got a babysitter, you got a nanny, you got a homegirl, you got a godmother, you know, you have a team.
But what about you?
But when it comes to taking care of yourself, we don't create those teams.
I think that's really great information, and especially for us as women, because I don't think that we take the value within what's necessary.
We don't even know, you don't, because I have a large female clientele, and they laugh at me because, you know, I ask questions that they don't think I was going to ask, because they come to me for nutrition, right? So when I go and start asking them other questions, they're like, huh? But I tell them, I was like, you know, your nourishment goes beyond your plate, right? Like, your nourishment is not just food, it's also people, places, and things. So the way your world is as far as your intake perspective is, it's not just the food. So I always tell people, what's on your plate literally is just a manifestation of the things that's in your world or your space. Ooh. When your diet is good, generally your life is going well, business is going well, your bae got you feeling good. Yeah. You know, you doing your thing, you working out. Right. And so literally I always have to tell them, okay, when was the last time you felt your best and thought you had your diet down pat? And generally when you look at that and compare it to where they are then, it's because the other things outside of your life, you know, have not been in play. So I always tell people, what are you consuming? Not just food, but what places are you consuming? Yeah. What people are you consuming?
Come on.
What things are you consuming?
Come on.
Because they have the power to, one, be nutrients or toxins.
Hold it.
Yeah.
What people, what places, what things,
and
because
food. Yeah,
they have the power
to be nutrients in your life or toxins.
It is time to be Candid with Coach.
Yeah, and there's a physical manifestation that happens in the body when that's not taking place.
Yeah. Are you a subscriber? If not, what the heck are you waiting on? Subscribe today, join our mailing list, and make sure you get those reminders sent directly to your email. You don't want to miss anything that we have coming up in the future.